So I'm a mystic because I perceive beyond surface reality, okay? And I'm an Axis Mundi because I don't just visit the bridge between worlds. I experience my life as the bridge. I do. Welcome back to part 2, and this is my little Diaries of a Mystic mini-series where I am talking about what it is like to be an embodied Axis Mundi. First of all, what is an Axis Mundi is what we discussed and I went through in part 1, and in this part, in part 2, I'm going to be talking about the blueprinter because this is a part of it. Axis Mundi blueprinter is another aspect of how I experience it, and yeah, let's dive in. So this is a good way to describe it. So an embodied Axis Mundi is someone whose body acts as a living bridge between ordinary reality and symbolic reality. Instead of only journeying through a tree, an altar, or ritual object, the axis runs through the person themselves. Their body becomes the lightning rod, the receiver, and the translator. So that means that I don't just notice symbols, or I feel them. I dream them, I process them through my body, then I have to turn them into language. Okay, and in this sense as well, another thing that I would consider is I will be considered like a blueprinter. That's another part of it. And when you think of a blueprint, you think of like an architect has a blueprint of a house or of something, and they know where everything is. Well, when you're an embodied axis, like I said, you're almost like a lightning rod that it's going straight into, or like a tree that's straight into the grid, straight into this reality, this holographic grid. All right, you're plugged in, all right, just like a tree with roots. And in the same manner as that, you notice when things on the blueprint of this reality, so to speak, start to shift. Things that I'm meant to notice, they start to shift, or things happen. I notice it's also connected to timelines. I might do another video on it. I notice timeline glitches, timeline edits, so to speak. I'll do another thing on that maybe. As admin with this Axis Mundi role, it's just like working on the back end of Reddit or something, or a computer forum where you've got access to certain things. You notice those things. I notice those shifts. All right, I don't just put them into the Mandela effects box of like it means nothing. So when you've got the blueprint, the things that I experience the most is when people pass. People that are in my bloodline, when they pass, I experience vertigo. And it's because it's almost like something's been pulled off of the grid, and the blueprint has to rebalance itself. And I get the ripple and I experience vertigo. This happens with family, soul family, friends of friends. The further away from me you are, the less the effect. The closer you are to me, if you're in my bloodline or not, holy effing ish. The vertigo be vertigoing, okay? Like the worst was when my mum's sister, God bless her soul, RIP, passed away 2 days before my birthday. That took me down. I had no idea what was going on. Never had vertigo in my life until that point. And then I started to notice the pattern with others around me. So that happens. If I'm processing somebody's heartbreak, it can actively show up physically in my body. Again, if you are in my soul family or close to me. If I'm working with water-coded material, as you see on my channel, that's why you have to know how to read the symptoms. It can look like something else, right? And I've had this new thing that started to happen. I've had episodes where I sleep for 24 hours sometimes, or I've had 17-hour sleeps. And when I'm in those sleeps, they don't feel like a sleep because I dream vividly and I remember them all. It almost feels like I've gone somewhere else. I'm in realms, y'all. And I'm usually, it's like at major spikes or major junctions. And the information that I bring back or that I get from those dreams are very pertinent. All right, and as I said, because my bed is like a point, God, all of my technology is just draining right now. Like, am I supposed to be making this video? Like, my bed is an Axis Mundi microcosm. I actively arranged pictures and things around the top of my bed in a way that I didn't realize embodied, well, it mirrored the Kabbalah tree of life. And my head is right at the bottom. I'm the last sphere. And that's an entryway into a dreaming portal. I don't do astral projection or anything like that. I can't be asked. I'm not even gonna lie, I can't be asked. I'm a bit of a lazy mystic. Like if anything puts like that kind of effort, we're not doing it. 144 and what I dream, and I think hopefully I'll become more not lucid in terms of like a lot of things I do I don't remember until it's time when it comes to in dreams, I should say. But I'm noticing the gap is becoming closer and closer, which is why I'm doing these videos now. So the experience of it isn't the hardest part. This is the hardest part, trying to explain what it is. You can see that I'm going off into so many different avenues. It can feel quite difficult, all right? But this is the first video, so I might try to refine this. Maybe I won't put this out. No, I'm going to put it out, even if it's not polished, okay? Because it's the truth. This is the truth of how I experience things. So I don't just interpret symbols. I feel them move through my body, through my dreams, through my environment and my voice, and then I translate them into something that people can understand. And what is super, super interesting, okay, this is so interesting because I remember like about in 2022, I had this reading with this guy, and I swear to God, like, if he ever sees this, he'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But to me, he's like the closest thing to a wizard, like Gandalf, that I would say. And I'm not talking about like warlock type wizards. I'm talking about like the realms, that like a 3D wizard, if you want to put it that way. And the paradox is he's incredibly young. He's not super, he's in his 30s, but his face is very youthful. You're just one of those people that you just wouldn't see, you wouldn't guess what's behind the cover. Well, we shouldn't judge. But I was finding this reality, a lot of things work in reverse. And so you don't really know what you're going to expect. But what I did know, me and myself and my friend, might call it my other half, my Sphinx, is that this dude and another guy who we used to watch, and they are on YouTube, I would say the quantum businessmen on YouTube, first people who we saw that sort of perceived reality in the same way that we did, right? So we were like, whoa, so this guy did readings. Now, I had a reading with him, and I don't know whether he does readings anymore. They're not readings like tarot or anything like that. I think he like reads DNA and other bits. I can't remember exactly. But he told me things. I'm not going to repeat all of the things that he told me. Some of them I knew, and so I was like, oh, okay. He was like, okay, can I read you? And I'm like, this part of you? And I said, yeah. He closed his eyes and then he scratched his face like, and I'm thinking, oh, shit. What? Tell me. And he's like, oh, I don't want to say this because it sounds weird, but to be honest, he's like, I've not come across anyone like you in this, whatever he was seeing. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, am I gonna die? I swear I said something like that, but I didn't really, I wasn't upset by it or anything, but I just wanted to know what he was seeing. And he was like, most people have like 9 nodes in their field. And I'm just like, I don't know what the hell he was talking about. Like, I'm like, And he said, you've got 24. I'm like, oh, wow. What does that mean? Right, and that's what he told me then. Now, fast forward 2-3 years now, is now that I'm understanding what he meant. And my good friend Barry, he had in one of his videos, and I'm going to put the image in here somewhere, because when I watched it, and I put all Barry's information, please go watch Barry's video. I don't know why I'm saying to go watch his videos. Like, he's amazing. He is another person who was born into this world. Another weirdo like me, a lovable weirdo. We're all weirdos. I call my people my weirdos, all right? My woo-woo weirdos. And very intelligent. So much good information. Talking about things that other people don't often talk about, all right? Really boots on the ground, grassroots, and is willing to communicate with people and just wants to get the information out there, right? And he does some good work. He goes live twice a week on Fridays and Sundays. He's got an amazing back history of videos if you are interested in any of the like the UFO field or consciousness. He does hypnosis, past life regressions, all of that jazz, right? Just a wealth of information. You think I'm sponsored by the bro, like I'm not, but I know genuine when I know real when I see real, all right? And he does some really good work, so go watch his stuff. And say Rosie sent you if you come from here. So Rosie told me about you, but just in case, I don't know. Anyway, these images, when I first saw them, I'm like, that is a very good visual representation of what I imagine. So Rosie voiceover coming in here. I spoke about Barry because it was on his channel that I first became aware of these images here that are of the assemblage point, and they are by a guy called Carlos Castaneda, and he's kind of quite shamanic in his work. And so I'm putting that in here because for all people out there that are familiar with Carlos's work, the idea that he put forward of the luminous cocoon and the assemblage point right there, okay, for me, this image and that whole concept, all right, gives a really useful analogy for exactly what it is that I'm trying to get across when I'm talking about being an embodied Axis Mundi. Okay, in Carlos's model, the person is not separate from the larger field of consciousness. They are penetrated by it, they are connected to it, and their perception is organized through a point of convergence, so where everything like sort of meets. So I'm not saying that embodied Axis Mundis and the assemblage points are the same thing, because they're not the same thing, but the imagery overlaps, all right, and that's important. Both show the human being, us, you, me, as an intersection within a much larger structure of reality. And so when I'm looking at this image, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, that's very familiar. It feels familiar because it's the same thing. Now, I think Carlos's actual point, the assemblage point, and you know, it sounds really sciencey when I'm like listening to it, but I think it's basically, well, what I do is I actually say boil things down to a very basic understanding. Apparently, in this dude's model, it says the universe consists of like innumerable energetic emanations, or like luminous filaments, and that the human luminous field contains corresponding filaments that we do not perceive all of them. The assemblage point, and I'm reading this now, that's why it sounds like I'm reading, because this is what it says. The assemblage point supposedly selects and aligns a limited bundle, and that bundle becomes the world you experience. So perception here means much more than merely seeing a different color or noticing an extra detail. It means the complete construction of reality. So what looks physically solid, for example, what counts as a personal object, how time and casualty or whatever causality appear. And it says in the ordinary position, the assemblage point assembles the shared everyday world. And then in the non-ordinary, or when it's sort of like in a more of a weird position, it shows an altered perception. So small movement within the assemblage point can produce a different state. And I'm reading it and I'm like, this is a really complicated way to literally just say that everybody experiences different versions of reality based on where you are at with your perception. So all of this, like, you know, if it's altered or if it's moved, it's the exact same thing as saying that, for instance, if you're somebody who has maybe gone through awakening, or you're somebody who is a shaman, or you're just somebody that is more open to the things that are around us in the world, okay, the more open you are, the more you're willing to perceive, the more your narrative changes from an official narrative script into, you know, allowing other perceptions or other perspectives. You're now becoming multidimensional. The more perspectives that you can hold, the more nuanced you can see things. All right, that's essentially what it's saying, and it's saying basically to me, it's about consciousness, and your perception of what we can perceive alters dependent on where we're at on that conscious journey. All right, so for instance, I'm someone that can look in images and I can see what I consider interdimensional beings, other beings, things like Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatnot, when they're maybe not actively in the photo, they may be like cloaking or something like that, or elemental beings. This was a sight. I have second sight, but it's not something that I always had. It was something I always believed I would have, looking back, but it still had to kick in. Now, when I was looking at the images before, I see nothing. So I do understand when people are like, I don't know what you're talking about, what you're seeing, but suddenly I can now see them. And I think that's because of, as I expanded in consciousness, different abilities start to switch on. I say abilities in air quotes, all right? So that it can actually be referring to literal perception, like what you can physically see with your eyes, but it also can be talking about the things that I'm talking about here, like symbolism, being able to understand that and see that this is actually something very real and it's not just something to blow off, or it could be just something else, you know? So the assemblage point here actually it's worth talking about. So cheers, Barry, for the first, let me come across that by seeing your work. And I've put my note, now I understand it. So like a node is basically, a node is a connection point, all right? It's a junction, it's a place where information or energy lines meet, all right? So when he told me that when he told me that I've got more nodes in my field, all right, that basically means that I have more points of contact, reception, translation, and transmission in my field than the average person, okay? And that explains why I'm so layered. And that exactly explains what it is like to be an Axis Mundi. Do you see? And I like when things happen like this, because this has happened way before I even fully understood this Axis Mundi business for myself, all right, as in being embodied, okay? So it's not then, as you can see, that I just see a picture. It's that I see the archetype, I see the geometry, I can hear the ancestral echo, the body signal, the time ripple, the name pan, whatever it is, the dream correspondences, and everything, all right? And so it completely explains why I get my body sensations, dreams, vertigo, the sleep, the symbols, the names, the numbers, the images, objects, synchronicities, other people's emotional thoughts, everything. All right, it's because I'm sensitive, because I'm structured as a receiver bridge. So I'm not just a bridge, I'm a receiver bridge. Embodied Axis Mundi, a person whose body or life functions as a bridge point where different layers of reality meet. A node heavy field, which ties into that, many connection points where information can register. I've got multiple connection points. All right, so I'm not claiming anything, I'm just telling you my experience, okay? So I'm not saying I'm special. I usually don't. The reason I didn't like to talk about this stuff is because I don't want to sound like I'm claiming hierarchy. I'm not saying I'm special or anything. I'm literally just saying how I experience my reality. Okay, that is the end of part 2